Raise your hand if you love Disney movies as much as we do. It's no surprise that Disney films go through a lot of rewrites in order to get the stories just right. We were totally astonished at some of the alternate endings we found to our favorite movies, especially the last on our list. New here? Make sure to subscribe to The Things and click the like button if you love Disney. Now check out 10 alternate endings to our favorite Disney movies. The Little Mermaid. The Little Mermaid is a story of fish meets boy. Fish loves boy. Fish gets in a bunch of trouble with a mean sea witch. Then, Fish lives happily ever after. Disney's version of this classic tale had us singing along with the fun musical numbers and laughing at the sea creature sidekicks. But as it turns out, the creators had a more brutal ending in mind before changing it to what we know in the film. The creators shared the storyboard of the original ending, and it's pretty epic. This ending features a final battle between Ursula and her eels, Ariel, Prince Eric, Sebastian, and Flounder. In this version, Eric only has a tiny little rowboat, which snaps in two like a pencil. And Ursula doesn't grow into a huge sea monster, but she does try to squeeze and hold Eric underwater with her tentacles. Sebastian gets the trident to Eric just in the nick of time, and he spears it into Ursula's chest. The storyboards alone are pretty scary. It's no wonder they went with the whole driving the ship into Ursula's gut ending instead. Both versions have a happy ending. Ariel became part of Eric's world, and Ursula was cursed down into the fathoms below. The Lion King. The Lion King is a warning to all of us about what could happen when you don't get along with your family. It turns out even lions have trouble getting along with their brothers. But Scar takes this sibling rivalry thing to a whole other level. In the theatrical film ending, Scar tries to throw Simba off of a cliff, the same way he did Mufasa. But Simba gets the better of him and forces him to confess to the Pride that he was responsible for Mufasa's untimely demise. Since Scar is cowardly, he blames the hyenas and says it was all their idea to take over Pride Rock. The hyenas don't like that very much, and Scar is left to deal with their wrath while Simba returns as rightful king. But the creators played with a different ending before that one. In the alternate ending, Scar actually succeeds in throwing Simba off the rock. Simba is defeated, but he survives. He's there with his mother as she wakes up. Scar is laughing because he thinks he's won, but he is surrounded by flames. His reign as king is a short one because he becomes consumed by the fire that engulfs Pride Rock. Which ending do you prefer, hyenas or fire? Beauty and the Beast. In 2017, Disney came out with a live-action version of its animated classic from the early 90s. They made a lot of updates to the story, which included adding 3 new songs. They also made some lyrical changes to the songs Belle, Gaston, and Be Our Guest. At Emma Watson's request, they gave Belle more of a backstory and made her the inventor instead of her father. The film implied that Belle had invented a washing machine so she could read books while her clothes were being washed. Watson also insisted that her character wear boots instead of dainty black flats, and some cloths strung along her belt instead of an apron. The creators had a very different ending plan for the live-action film, but it didn't do well with audiences. In their original ending, the prince was supposed to emerge shirtless from a bed of roses. The actor playing the prince talked about it in an interview. He said, "Several mothers pointed out that if he's without a shirt during that moment, he's probably without the rest of his clothes too." They did not want their kids to see that, so they had to reshoot the ending with a fully clothed prince. Toy Story 3. Did you know that Toy Story 3 was set to end in Taiwan? The story we all know is that Andy is 17 and going to college, so he decides to donate all of his old toys to a daycare. In the daycare, they meet a tyrannical teddy bear who forces the toys to be prisoners of baby abuse. The toys escape and reunite with Andy, who decides to give them to a lovely child. The child promises to take good care of the toys, and they play together before Andy goes off into the grown-up world. Sweet, right? Well, that wasn't what Disney had in mind at first. Disney tried to steal the Toy Story saga from Pixar and create a radically different film. They wanted the story to be centered around Buzz Lightyear having a malfunction. According to this alternative storyline, all the Buzz Lightyear dolls were recalled and sent to Taiwan to be fixed. Then Woody and the gang journey to Taiwan to rescue Buzz. Not only is this a repeat of the theme in Toy Story 2, the story lacked heart. It was also missing the growing up and moving on theme that was so powerful in the final film. So they ultimately scrapped it and went for the daycare plot. Thank goodness. Lilo and Stitch. When Lilo and Stitch came out in theaters in 2002, the country was still recovering from the attacks on the World Trade Center from 2001. This was supposed to be the feel-good movie audiences needed, but it had a major problem. There was an action sequence at the end of the film that would have triggered a traumatized nation. They had to make a pretty big change to the ending before they released it. Originally, Lilo and Stitch had an action-packed ending where Stitch hijacked a commercial airplane to rescue Lilo. Stitch and his pals take over a 747 filled with scared passengers. Then they go on a high-speed chase, dipping through and even clipping skyscrapers and coming close to pedestrians on the ground. It's pretty triggering to watch. Obviously, the filmmakers couldn't show that ending after what the country had just been through on 9/11. So, they rewrote it. In the final, released version, Stitch takes over a red, white, and blue spaceship. And instead of flying through the city, the animators had it take place over Hawaii's mountains and volcano landscapes. This made for a much more pleasant movie-going experience for American audiences. It was definitely the right call. Cinderella. The old animated Disney classic Cinderella is light and fun. With the singing mice and the magical fairy godmother, what's not to love? But the truth is, Disney had to tone down the darkness of the original Grimm brother version. In the end, there's a white dove instead of a fairy godmother. The dove brings Cinderella a dress and slippers so she can go to the ball. And just like the film, she loses a slipper for the prince to find. The prince goes through the village looking for the foot to fit the shoe. Pretty similar so far, right? Well, here's where it gets a bit dicey. The stepmother actually convinces the first stepsister to chop off her toes so that she can fit in the shoe. Ouch! Anyway, the prince notices the blood and goes back on the hunt. He meets the second stepsister, who's been talked into cutting off her heel. Seriously, what is wrong with these people? Finally, the prince sees Cinderella and remembers that she is the one he fell in love with at the ball. At their wedding, white doves peck the eyes out of the stepsisters as punishment for their cruelty. Geez, wonder why Disney decided to change it. The Hunchback of Notre Dame. The Disney version of The Hunchback of Notre Dame is actually adapted from a novel written by Victor Hugo. The novel is pretty dark compared to the Disney version. In the movie, Quasimodo, the super strong hunchback who is the bell ringer at Notre Dame, saves the gypsy Esmeralda from the sinister Frollo. Then Esmeralda hooks up with the gorgeous soldier Phoebus, even though Quasimodo has a crush on her. But the novel is way more complicated. In the book, after Esmeralda refuses Frollo's advances, he gets very angry and falsely accuses her of a horrible crime. He tries to have her executed. Quasimodo swings down from the bell tower and saves her and brings her back to the church, where she is safe under the sanctuary law. Eventually, Frollo overturns the law and barges into the church to claim Esmeralda. When she refuses to be with him again, he succeeds in having her executed. Quasimodo is so angry, he pushes Frollo off the bell tower. Then the grief-stricken hunchback goes and lays next to Esmeralda in her grave and starves himself. Not so happily ever after, is it? Disney really had their work cut out for them to make this story palatable for children. Snow White. Snow White also started out as a Grimm Brothers fairy tale, just like Cinderella. Apparently, in olden times, these fairy tales were designed to scare the bejesus out of kids so that they would have a good moral compass and not be greedy, mean little trolls. It's clear that Disney's intentions are to entertain kids and keep them coming back for more, so they had to tone down the fear-mongering from these stories quite a bit. There are a lot of similarities between the original fairy tale and the Disney movie. The evil queen has a magic mirror which tells her that Snow White has taken her place as the fairest in the land. The queen sets out to poison and destroy Snow White. Snow White eats an apple and falls asleep until the prince comes by and sees her beauty. In the Disney version, true love's kiss breaks the spell of the poison, and Snow White and the prince live happily ever after. But here's where the story really takes a turn. In the old version, Snow White and the prince invite the evil queen to their wedding, but it's a trap. When she gets there, they slap on a pair of burning hot iron shoes which force her to dance until she passes out. Yikes! Moana. We are living in a time where we get to discover what a female heroine looks like. Many films try to portray a female protagonist as a masculine-type warrior who is just as capable as kicking butt as any male counterpart. But Disney's Moana decided to go a different way. However, they had to go through a couple of drafts to get there. In the film, Moana employs the help of the demigod Maui to restore the heart of Te Fiti and stop the destruction of the islands. But they have to go through the fiery Te Kā first. In an older version of the script, Moana and Maui fought Te Kā. It was mainly Maui that got the credit for defeating Te Kā. The creators said that ending didn't make Moana the star of the third act, and they really wanted to get Maui out of the way for that moment. In the final version, Moana realizes that she doesn't need Maui to restore the heart of Te Fiti. She also realized that she and Te Kā are similar, and that they are both searching for who they truly are. She uses her intuition as a young woman rather than aggression, and peacefully reminds Te Kā who she is. The result is a beautiful story that is unique to the Disney princess stories of the past. Frozen. Did you know that in the original version of Frozen, Elsa was a villain? At first, Anna and Elsa weren't sisters. They weren't royalty either. Elsa was a self-proclaimed snow queen who was power-hungry and evil, similar to the old Hans Christian Andersen tale. By now, we know how morbid those old fairy tale stories are. The ending was supposed to have an epic battle where Elsa attacked Anna and her friend with an army of snow monsters. Apparently, Elsa became a villain because she was super ticked off that a guy dumped her and broke her heart. So everyone thought she had a frozen heart that was prophesied to destroy the kingdom. But even in the old version, Hans is a jerk and turns out to be the true unfeeling bad guy with a metaphorical frozen heart. They changed the story because they felt the audience would have no emotional connection to Elsa. Plus, they felt like that story has been done like 1,000 times already. So they went with the royal sister storyline. It's a good thing too, because now we have the magical song, Let It Go. It seems Disney always knows how to get it right in the end. And that's it for 10 alternative endings to Disney movies. We hope you enjoyed the video. See you next time.